Your Heart Show. This show is brought to you by JCLV21. This show is where we talk with powerful women who are shaking up the globe with spreading love, wholeness, and wellness. This show was created to be a living anthology of influential women in local communities who lead by example and speak from the heart. Today, I have the honor and the privilege to be with Loyce Hampson, who is a speaker and the founder of W.I.N.G.S LCC. Loyce, can you please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hello, my name is Loyce Hampson, and I own, operate, and design my W.I.N.G.S company, and W.I.N.G.S stands for Whole Integration for New Growth Services. And I endeavor to help people find that love center within, or as my sister says, find that chocolate in the center of that Tootsie Roll.
I absolutely love it. So, my question to you is this, because we're gonna jump in. Okay, we hear what you're doing now, but we gotta go back into the beginning, if you will, for you specifically. So, my first question to you is, can you describe your childhood in 3 words?
A mixed bag.
Okay. Can you further elaborate?
It's like a mixed bag of tricks. There was times when it was positive, very positive. There were times when it was very negative. There were times when it was peaceful. There was times when it was crazy. It was a mixed bag of tricks. It was not never something that was stable at all whatsoever, because it was always going up and down, and swinging to the opposite poles of the continuum.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Yeah. So we can we can paint the picture. Mm-hmm. Who were your parents exactly, and what did they do in life?
Okay, well, my mother was a young mother, and by the time I came along, she was 20 years old and already had 2 kids. Okay, we ended up having 6 kids in our family, which was 4 boys and 2 girls, and myself being the oldest, and my sister Felicia being the youngest girl, and then I had 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers. And my mom came out to California from St. Louis because she was escaping abuse and other stuff, and she came to California to live with her sisters. My dad, he was also an escapee from Louisiana, who was also a musician, and the police harassed him one last time, which made him flight to California, and they beat him up and told him the next time they see him on the streets of Nolens, okay, that's the way they said it, Nolens, they would leave him in Potter's Field. And if anybody knows anything about New Orleans, there was a place that when they were doing all that lynching and stuff, and leaving black bodies in places, it was a place called Potter's Field that was notorious for where they would hang a black person. You know, my dad was born in 38, my mom was born in 41, so they were born still at the height of all the segregation and the civil rights and all that kind of stuff. And my mom had a 10th grade education, and my dad had an 8th grade education. And between the two of them, there was a mixed bag of tricks.
Okay. I have a question for you, because for me, you were raised around a different time in history. Mm-hmm. Can you paint the stage as to what you were born into? Because I think that also gives context to your story.
Okay, I was born in the early 60s, which is the baby boomers generation, that toward the end of the baby boomers generation. At the time, there was a lot of civil unrest. I was with my mom when she went and marched for civil rights with some of the big dogs, and when she worked with some of the not so big dogs and got blackballed from being able to work for a government establishment anywhere, because she was protesting and marching, and the Watch riots. I remember that. And then, of course, there were other situations in history where she was um, helping people to try to get elected into office. That promised that they would change things. At one point in time, the reason she got blackballed is because she started working with the Black Panther Party for a brief stint. So that's what was going on during the time I was raised. And in the neighborhood I was raised in, it was a middle class black neighborhood. But to hear people tell it, by the time I got to high school, I was told I grew up in the ghetto. And I didn't realize I grew up in the ghetto because I had the basic necessities of life. And at times I felt thoroughly loved, but at times I felt thoroughly despised. So I thought that was everybody's childhood. There was times in my childhood where I was molested by a few family members, and then later on, I experienced sexual assault and all that other kind of stuff. And I was kind of child that was very sensitive, and I think Graciela called it the what was
HSP.
Thank you, HSP, highly sensitive person. Okay. And so my mom recognized that I was highly sensitive and I had wisdom beyond my years. And she would ask me questions that were adult questions, but for some reason my brain was still open for it. So I was able to answer. So I kind of like became a mother to my mother in a little bit of a kind of way. And, so I kind of mothered my mother in some ways, and in other ways, I also mothered my brothers and sisters. Now, did I get mothered? At times, if I did something to warrant attention, then I'd get yelled at or whooped or whatever, and then she would sit down and say, "Now I know you know better. Why did you do that?" And most times I did something wrong, is so that I can talk to my mother, because any other time she was too busy with all the other kids that was in the house, and she felt like I didn't need any help. So, and it was in an age where they were trying to toughen you up because you were a black kid growing up in this half segregated, not integrated, not equal place, so that you wouldn't end up in jail or in somebody's potter's field. They raised us to try to harden us. And they did things, quote unquote, to harden us so that the police wouldn't do it. So a lot of things they did was, in abuse right now, it would be called severe child abuse, with some of the tactics they took. But they said, excuse me, I'm going to say it like this: they'd rather beat our ass than have the man beat our ass. And that's what they called it at the time, the man. That meant any white person in control. Okay. So basically, that was the environment I grew up in. And with my daddy being a musician, a very prominent musician at that, because he played with the likes of Temptations, Lou Rawls, Mighty Clouds of Joy. I mean, Diodato. I mean, one of the Coltrane's. I don't remember which one. So he played with a lot of different groups, and some of the rock stars, Jimi Hendrix, and a whole lot of people. So at any given time, these musicians from all walks of life are rolling through our house. And I got to see the seedier side of celebrity, and that was hard to see. But it was also funny. I'm sorry, I was a kid. I laughed. So, but it was a seedier side of that entertainment industry. And that made me not want to develop my voice or anything like that, or play any musical instrument beyond the violin that I played for like 3 or 4 years as a kid. So.
Okay. So, wow. Okay. That's a lot. And I will say, I thank you for sharing and being open about your childhood with us. And I have one more question specifically about your childhood, and that would be, did you have any dreams as a child that you wanted to do when you became older, or anything like that? With all the things going on at that time, what future did you see for yourself while going through the time where segregation was still a thing, where lynching was still prominent, where people were actually getting stoned and a whole bunch of other things out on the streets. Okay.
Oh my God. I ain't that old, Charente.
Hey, people are still stoned to today. So I'm just saying it probably was more prominent and we didn't have social media to record it. Okay.
Well, okay. Well, when I was 7 years old, my first dream was to get saved. Okay. And I didn't mean it in a spiritual, religious, gospel way. I wanted to be saved from that house with all that crazy in it. Okay. With them arguing all the time and fighting each other and beating us and yelling and cursing. And one day we come home, it's beautiful Ozzie Nelson house, and everybody's all nice and calm, and we're playing and we're just enjoying childhood. But the very next day, I could come in and all hell was breaking loose, and we had to hide. So me and my brother made a pact, and we made our own language so we would know what the house was like when we got home. And if he got home first, he was to tell me the weather report. And if I got home first, I was to tell him the weather report. And we would do it in code. Okay. So nobody ever knew what we were talking about. So we would know whether we needed to protect our siblings or we could just have fun. And the mood of the house was I would say it was taken over by my mother's emotions that would swing back and forth. So my thing when I was a child, I wanted to understand why my family was so crazy, why I couldn't, and then why I didn't feel like I fit in because I was not like other children. I was a little bit different. I was a little bit odd, and I didn't like how I felt. So my thing was when I grew up, I wanted to become a doctor so that I could help the people feel better or that felt like I did feel better. And I found out later that was a degree in psychology, which I did go ahead and do. But yeah, I wanted to help the people, the kids, other people who felt as unloved. And I was more like because the emotional abuse. They were emotionally abused or physically abused and didn't have somebody to talk to because we were told you don't tell nobody what goes on inside this house. Otherwise, I brought you in this world. People laugh about Bill Cosby saying that on that show, and I take you out. And I'm gonna be real. I believe that they could take me out. I saw guns in the closet. I've seen them fight each other. So they put the fear of everything in me, and I carried that fear with me everywhere I went. So that was a marking, and I didn't want people to feel all that crazy. So if I saw somebody who was needing help, even other friends even at 7, 8, 9 years old, I was going to help them. Okay, I would talk to them if they looked like they all by themselves sitting on the curb while we all playing softball in the street and they feeling like they don't fit in. I would go get that kid and I'd bring them in. Or if there was a kid getting bullied, like I got bullied at home, I would straight up go over there, and I was a bully buster. Okay, I wasn't a fighter at that time, but I didn't let nobody pick on nobody else. So, so that's how I got started down my professional track, being a defender of those who were defenseless, who I thought were defenseless. I'm gonna be real, who I thought were defenseless, or needed somebody to talk to.
This show is brought to you by JCLV21. JCLV21 is a coaching company that was created to help women business owners, podcasters, and entrepreneurs build the foundation for their business or their podcast. With automation, structure, marketing, hiring, and mentorship, JCLV21 provides you with what you need to be successful for your business, your podcast, and your life. They believe that everyone deserves to shine in their divine. Head over to jclv21.com to book a call or text the word book to 702-334-8470 to schedule a free consultation today. Now let's head back to the interview. Okay, so I have a question because you did bring up fighting. So I didn't have to actually ask you questions to get that out. So, can you, okay, so in your early childhood, because you said that you were physically touched unwantedly, and that was molestation, sexual assault. There's no trigger warning, it's just sexual assault because that's what it is. So my question to you is this, how did you get to here? How did you fight all of this? Because that's a lot going on in the household. You sound like you were dealing with a mom that sounded like they were probably bipolar. They had their highs, they had their lows. You had a father who was in fear all the time and most likely was depressed. So how did you combat that? Like, what did that look like?
Well, I loved to play as a kid and I loved to dance. I got a thing from dancing from way back, and I stopped dancing a while in childhood because of some of that molestation stuff. But I would go into my own little world and I would dance. And I would be listening to the music playing and I'd be off in a bedroom somewhere twirling a scarf and just dancing my heart out. And that was one way that I remember dealing with it. Another way, I actually told the people that where I thought could help me what happened to me, and because for whatever reason I can't tell you, put words in nobody's mouth. For whatever reason, the help wasn't available. The help wasn't available. So I was taught stuff those feelings, let the past be past, and that happened then. Get over it. Put your feelings in your pocket. If you weren't laying down, they couldn't step on you, and all that kind of. Those are the things that I was told. And so, in essence, I was told to take whatever I was feeling and stuff it inside because they couldn't deal with it.
Okay, so you danced to release that.
I danced for. I'm always dancing. I still do it now. If I had some music was playing right now, I'd be dancing. But yeah, I danced. I danced because music was always playing in our house, and that was one way I can get away. Another thing I did, I sang. I sang. I would sing sad, pitiful songs. I would sing upbeat songs, and one song I remember when it came out, it was when I was in high school, and my daddy said, "You better not never sing that song no more." And it was "I'm Going Down" on the Car Wash album by Rolls Royce. And he said I had too much damn emotion in that song. So I was forbade or forbidden to sing that sad ass song. And I really never ever sung it again, not with all that emotion, because yeah, and I was good at it too, because people would just sit around, because we would have talent shows on our street, and we would get to show our talents, dancing, singing, and that was a regular twice a year thing we did because we wanted to raise money to go to amusement parks. But yeah, so singing, dancing, writing, until a teacher told me that my writing was terrible. Okay, so I stopped writing, and I had to outgrow that, and heal from that as well. Because I'll write every day, but I don't necessarily want anything I write published unless the spirit tells me, okay, now go ahead, dig out your journals, and let's put something together. But I've not been instructed to do that. But yeah, so I would
Okay.
write. Okay, I would. Oh my God, the biggest thing, I would escape by going to the library. It was a safe space. Okay, and my ass stayed in the library, and I drug my brother and sister to the library with me when I was a kid.
This might sound horrible, but for those that don't know what a library is, can you please describe what that is? Because some people, I'll just say, I love people, but just in case, what is a
I
library?
would say this. I will try and credit to the people that. Okay, the library is a place you go where you actually walk in and you look in a card catalog file cabinet for the Dewey Decimal Number to find the book that may or may not be there. And then you would have to check the books out and take them home to read them, or you can sit in the library and read and stay there as long as until the library closed, until they kick your ass out. Well, because that's what they had to do with me. They had to kick my ass out. Okay, or my mom would let me go. So those are my escapes: dancing, singing, the library. Staring into space. I imagined a lot of stuff. I stared into space. I was a deep, deep thinker. And my deep thinking led me to deep compassion. So I did. So for me, it was not, I kind of was transforming stuff before I knew what transforming stuff meaning that I was turning my hardship into somebody else's healing. And I believe in turning your hardship into healing. I believe in transmuting all that stuff, because it can be transmuted. So until I knew that I could transmute it within myself, I was helping other people transmute things.
I love that. And so, so now I have questions because from my research in that time frame, church was it was a staple in the Black community. My question is that I like always going over the Wesleyan quadrilateral, which is about how do you form your faith with reason, experience, tradition, sculpture, or a little bit of each one. Can you tell us how you formed your faith?
Experience. Okay, like when I said I was 7 years old and I wanted to be saved from the house with all that crazy, I saw a sign on this little White House church. It was a house turned into a church on the corner 2 blocks away, and I was 7. And I asked my mom, "Can I go to that church?" Because the sign on the marquee says, "Jesus will save you." And since I wanted to be saved, and I'm a 7, I didn't, like I said, I wanted to go to that church. And luckily, even though she wasn't a churchgoer herself, she allowed me to. And so I went there every Sunday morning for Sunday school. And like you said, in the talk we had earlier, for the snacks, for the juice and the graham crackers or whatever, because that was a treat back in that day, and then we would have Sunday school, and then we go in front of the church and tell what we learned. And one of the things I prayed for as a child was wisdom. When they told us to ask, we had to ask God for things that we would want from Santa Claus, and we only could pick one thing. And I came back asking for wisdom. The kids laughed at me and adults cried. So I didn't know how to take. That was a mixed bag of tricks too. So I didn't want to speak in front of people no more. Okay, so it was some stuff. Like I said, fear was really ingrained into me, and it was easy for me to fear the next thing when somebody laughed, or because I cared about how people viewed me at that time because I was a child.
It makes sense because here's the validation piece. And if you're not really getting words of affirmation, you're not getting built up, but you're getting put down. And that was just to make sure that you weren't going to get hurt from the outside world.
Yes.
Counterintuitive, but
reverse
they
psychology,
did the best that they could.
But that was the best. Yeah, exactly. That was the best they can do, because you got to realize my mom and dad only had a 10th and an 8th grade education, so they hadn't learned all this higher stuff like therapy and working your stuff out and anything like that. And then because at the time that it was going on, the white community and the Black community was still so separated. The Black people didn't trust the white people, hence they didn't trust therapy and all that kind of stuff, because they were doing experiments on Black men and all kinds of stuff back in the day. The Tuskegee experiment where they gave Black men syphilis. So the belief in therapy and getting help for the Black community, the only place you could get the help was the church. And if the church was just as sick as your family of origin, guess what? You got more abused at the church, which is kind of like what I walked into when it came to church. More abuse. Because and I understood that church is where the sick people go to get well. But the thing is you go into church where the sick people go to get well. When do they get well?
Mm-hmm.
That was my
question. It's a good question.
Okay, so
I have a question now. And this is just to give more context really fast, is what was the technology like at the time? Because I really want the context to be here. because you brought up library, you brought up talent shows on the street. Please help those that are more of the newer generations understand technology at this time.
Okay, the big thing on the stage when I was a kid was getting a telephone that was on the wall in the kitchen with a cord long enough to reach all around the house, which was rare. If you had a cord that you can walk and talk with your telephone, hey, you was kicking ass and taking names and numbers because you weren't stuck sitting at the phone. Because a lot of times the phone only had a 8 or 12 foot cord and it couldn't reach to all the rooms in the house, and you'd be stuck trying to yell in the other room. But when that cord came out for that telephone hooked to that wall, and you can walk that long cord all around everywhere, at least in 3 rooms, and then the other phone would take the other 3 rooms. That was doing the shit back then. And transistor radio, because we didn't have all the cassettes and all that stuff didn't come out yet. 8 tracks hadn't come out yet. They were listening to music on reel to reel and recording tracks on reel to reel. Okay. Also, the TVs, the majority of the TVs that were out were in black and white. If you had a color TV when I was a child, there wasn't no color TV. Put it like that. When they came out, only a select few had the color TVs. Okay, and it was a big old giant box that was heavy as Methuselah if you had a 19-inch screen. Okay, I'm serious. The tubes in it, and that big old giant test tubes was like test tubes in the back of it. That would I took stuff apart when I was a kid. That was the other thing. I was creative. Me and my brother built vehicles out of lawnmower parts, out of whatever we can find, grocery carts. I mean, we made all kinds of vehicles which we could ride in. Like little go kart type of deals, and then we would take toast. I would take toasters apart to fix them. They would work for a little while, and they would break again, and I fix it again. They would work for a little while, and then finally we just had to throw it away. But I used to like to tinker and help my dad when because he also, in addition to being a musician, he was an expert drywall hanger, and so I knew how to hang drywall and tape walls and cut out closets and build frames, and so that's what you see when you see me building on stuff where I get all that stuff from, because that was an escape as a child for me. And it was one way for me to get closer to my dad, because he was there, but he was most times absentee, because he was either drinking or high or working or doing something else other than paying attention to us kids. He left that to my mother, and then my mother, she was so protective of us. Anytime we spend any time with our dad, she was trying to figure out, is he touching us? And I'm thinking, huh? So I thought that was weird. But then his brother was the molester, so I understand where my mother got that from. Where she felt that. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. I thank you for answering that, because I just want to make sure the picture is painted, as to also explain why you said that your father and your mother didn't have a super high education. The internet wasn't really around at that time, at all.
No.
So the information wasn't as easy as it is now with iPhones, phones, and all the different things that we have now.
Oh, yeah. You can go to YouTube University and learn any damn thing and find anything you want to fix, anything you want to repair. You can go on there, look it up, and you can find it. And if you want to grow spiritually, affirmations, everything is on you at YouTube University. I got a master's degree from YouTube University.
I love you so much. You're hilarious. So I have questions, because we focused on your childhood, we focused on your parents, we've talked about your faith. Now I want to move into your relationships. So you becoming a young adult, if I'm not mistaken, you did get married, and you experienced, I believe, abuse there too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when I got married, they said, for richer, for poor, for better, or for worse, to death do you die. And because I had seen physical violence at home and verbal violence at home, getting married and experiencing it again, I thought that shit was normal, until I started talking to other people, because, everything was secret. Everything was still a secret. You don't tell people what goes on inside your house. That's supposedly for your protection. But the thing is, those secrets are the things that keep you sick. That's what I learned, and that's what I taught my clients. Don't keep no damn secrets. If something is happening, you better go tell some damn body so you can get the help you need. But it was still everything was still secretive. So when I started talking to other women who were married and looking at my friends' mothers' parents' marriage, because most of my friends weren't married at the time I was, and I saw their marriage, I was like, wait a minute, she ain't yelling at her. He ain't yelling at what? Wait, what? And they would say like, I'm mad. Okay, this upset me. I couldn't, And I'm thinking, wait a minute, where's the dishes? Where's the brooms? Where's the stuff flying? Okay, and I had to see. I saw another side of it, and then that's when I really realized that what I was living was bullshit. Okay, and of course I had to fight back to get out. And the fight I had to get out was the spiritual trust in God. And I saw miracles happen when I was married, where he was hitting nobody. He wasn't hitting me, but he was fighting somebody because he was getting hit. And that was some of the strangest stuff. And there was other miracles that happened at that time. And then because he was a boxer in the freaking military and had a record of 98 wins as knockouts, 98 knockouts.
Wasn't it Marines specifically?
Yeah. In the Marines, okay. 98 knockouts and one TKO, one decision, his favor. So my husband was a little bit of a monster, you know. So yeah. But I never. I look. God kept me. I'm gonna say it like that. God kept me, and He protected me, and He helped me get out of it. And He used my ex-husband's parents to do so, because they said they'd rather have a live crazy son than a dead one, and because they saw murder in my eyes when I did fight him back at his mother's house.
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot. So, wow, just wow. I have a quick question. As a high level, what type of abuse did you experience in your marriage? Like high level, like the names, like emotional, like what type of abuse? Exactly what you say.
Ooh, all of it. It was physical, it was emotional, it was sexual, all of it. All of it. It was the same as my childhood. It was the same thing. I was magnetized. It was the same shit I had in my marriage was the same shit I had as a child at home. Okay? And then you said about the boyfriends or fiancés. Yeah, I've been engaged 8 times, married once. And the reflection in the mirror of what was going on inside of me manifested on the outside of me. Where I was cheating me, they would cheat on me. Where I was violent to me, they were violent to me. Where I was judgmental of me, they were judgmental of me. And the thing is, I always thought everything was my fault because I was always held accountable for everybody when I was a child. So, like I said, I had a really shitty way. I had some shitty thinking going on. That's why I always talk about the shit being the fertilizer, okay? Because when you got a lot of shit, you can grow a lot of stuff, okay?
You can. Okay. It's used for fields and the farm. I understand.
That's right. Okay. But it sure does stink, and it stinks a long time when you got so much on you and you don't realize that all this is affecting you. And then sometimes you're somebody who's unaware, does something, and all this shit flies at them. You know? So there was times when, for me, when I would blow up and whoever was in the way, they got steamrolled. And it wasn't in a good way. But I would most of the times I was able to keep my peace and just be loving and sweet. But when it would build up, and because I never knew how to get it off me, when it would build up, I would explode like the pressure cooker, and the top would fly and forget anything and anybody in the way. Okay, because like I said before, his parents said I had murder in my eyes. So,
wow. Wow. I'm just going to let it breathe for a second, and then I'll ask my next question.
Oh, you good.
because this is a lot. And I will say this is that those listening in, thank you so much for the claps. I saw you, Andrea. I saw you as well, Sunny, when it comes to your guys' reactions. So I have a question for you. I'm going to backtrack a little bit based off my research. You pledged Delta Sigma Theta. How did that go? And do you have a nickname? Because I heard that's a culture thing when it comes to you pledging. I have questions.
Okay.
She's laughing, y'all. We should be get ready. Strap yourself in if you haven't already. We're about to go on for the wild ride. Come on now.
Yes, I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta, TTBOD, to anybody who's a Delta out there. Okay. And pledging a sorority. that was a whole nother mixed bag because again, because I was magnetized for abuse, guess what? That was an abusive situation as well. But each situation, like I said, I fought anything the best way I could. So when I pledged, it was back in 82, I believe, 81, 82. It was during a time when pledging was still, they were still doing hazing and degrading you and lying on you and hollering in your face with spit flying, and you're supposed to stand there and take it because again they were toughening you up for the real world. Okay, yeah, that's what I said too. And I'm thinking, okay, it is 1980 something. This ain't slavery time. You ain't got to do all that. So, of course, being Loyce that I am, I fought against it. And I got everybody in my pledge line on the bandwagon to fight against it. The first time we all quit because one of our sisters had gotten in a car accident. And we didn't want to go because they had called the sorority sisters from Louisiana, and those were some of the hardcore hazing people. So we didn't want to go. So instead of just not going because we didn't want to go, and since our sister had an accident, and they said all for one and one for all, we said we all have to be at the hospital with her. Because one of our sisters, one of our legs was at the hospital, so all of us must be at the hospital. Of course, they got pissed off. Okay, and we said, "This is what you've been teaching us. That you didn't. I told you I was a deep thinker. Okay, they tried to guilt us and say we had to be there. No, we need to be with our sister. She is in the hospital being treated because she was in a car, and that was the truth. She had been in a car accident. Okay." Mm-hmm. Now, were we all at the hospital? Hell no. We just wasn't going. And that was the best way to get them off our back. But then the aftermath of that, they are hazing us again, all up in our face and stuff. And then it got to the place where, since they were being so abominable, I'll say it like that, or terrible, I convinced everybody to quit. Because we didn't deserve that. We did not deserve that. And we all said we were going to quit. So when they came to us, because we didn't go to them, everybody backed down. Okay, but I'm being real. I wasn't taking no more abuse. I said I'm gone. Okay, and nobody walked with me, and I walked out by myself, and I went to my friend's house, my best friend's house, and her mother's in Delta also, and once we all quit, the word got out to the older sorority members and the younger ones from the big chapter all the way up to the chapter in DC. And we ended up changing things because I walked out that time and she taught me, that was when she told me that my biggest strength was also my greatest weakness, which was my independence. Okay. And that rang so true to me, I rejoined the line. And then they pulled some other stuff on us again. And this time the whole line walked out and they had to call the people from Washington to come down and do a hearing with us as to why we left. And of course, all the bullshit got called to the carpet. And I told them, I don't understand. We come here and we're built up. We have to meet all these requirements to get in here, grade point averages, community service, all this stuff, only to get here for us to be in all these different colleges for you to tear us down, saying it's part of the pledging process. This is not the 1960s. This is, we don't need to be tore down. And the thing is, if I'm already built up, why you want to tear me down? Why you want to make, it's kind of like, why are you going to make me a group of, take away my individuality, tear me down to build me up. If I'm already built up, build me up more. And so I said, that's why we quit. And they held, they like, we'll have a decision, blah, 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 blah. And then they changed the pledging requirements that year and they crossed us anyway without all the bullshit. Okay. And because they were demeaning when it came to our probate names. But my name, Big Sister name, was Big Sister Little Angel, and with our lot names, we had to have a poem for the pledgees to say, and so
Tell
mine
me.
was. I know you wanted that out. It was, my name is Little Angel. I'm quiet, simple, and sweet. But if anybody fuck with me, I'ma knock them off their motherfucking feet.
Did you
Cause
have
I
them
was,
cussing?
yes,
Did you
I did.
actually have them? Oh
Yes,
my.
I did. Okay, because cursing is not, there's a lot illegal, and they were not, and they know that I was sweet. I was the one who fought for the pledges when they got online, and especially when my sisters started uh, pledging them like we had been pledged, and I walked out. I walked out. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, I have not been much of a part of it since. I worked for them years later, but as far as the whole pledging process and all that shit, I walked out because I didn't like the abuse. Now I understand it's different and it's a different environment, and they're more into the scholarship and the grassroots organizations and the community service, and they're not so much so hard on that pledging bullshit. But it, like I said, that was an experience in all of this stuff, and I'm proud to have gone through it because that was part of me beginning to fight back.
Okay, so we're going to progress because we got to.
Okay.
We have
All
a
right.
few minutes pretty much, but we have
Okay.
to.
All right.
So we're going to progress. Guys, we're going over 60 years. So please
Mm-hmm.
bear with me when I'm asking her these questions because I'm really trying to get her entire story and not miss any part because she's lived life. And this is a wealth of information. So I thank you for being with me, Loyce. And I thank you for allowing me to ask you all of these questions and your time doing this and your spunkiness. I love it.
I appreciate you for doing it, and you're asking me questions that I have not thought of in centuries. So you win. You really did homework on me,
I
and I
did. And
finally
now
got
we're
it.
going to talk about homework on
Okay.
you. And we're going to talk about the fact that you had kids, one in the marriage, in the abuse, another one shortly after, if I'm not mistaken, you guys separated, and then another child after that. So, can you please explain to me how all three came to be?
Okay. Well, my child of faith was born in the marriage. That one I got pregnant on a honeymoon, and that shit does happen. Okay, because she was born almost exactly 9 months later, and her birthday is tomorrow. I got married February 14th. She was born November 10th. So it's like, wait, So, but that was my first child, and that's when I was married. And then when I was getting out, trying to get out of the abusive marriage, once I finally got away, I found out I was pregnant with our second child. So that's how that happened. And that was my child of hope because God told me that child would be a blessing to me all the days of my life, and not to abort her. And
Pause.
then pause.
Why would you abort her before you even go to the last child? Why would you? Why would that even come to your mind? Because Roe versus Wade, that's a thing now. So I would like to talk about that just for a second. Why?
Okay. She was a child of rape. He broke in my house when I was living alone with my other daughter, and he raped me. And that's how she came along. That's why I battled with keeping her or not keeping her. And plus, the oldest one was only 4 years old at the time, and that was a battle. That was a battle. But God gave me hope. He gave me
Mm-hmm.
hope, and I didn't name her Hope. I named her Brianna, which meant strength and compassion. But she was my child of hope that God will renew my strength and everything was going to be okay. And that was her initials, be okay. Because Brianna Octavia Killingsworth. So that was my child of hope.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you so much for being vulnerable. That's not really an easy thing to talk about, especially when we talk about domestic violence. We're talking sexual assault, and then you having the faith and having the hope and having her anyway, and then raising her. So now you can go to your third child because I had questions, but I'll let you continue.
Okay, the third child is you. And you were a child, you were my, because each child, it was something that God did with me. And he said that my first one was the promise of faith, the second one was the promise of hope, and the last one was my promise of love. Because you are the daughter of my high school sweetheart. Because when I was 15, 16, and 17, I was with your father for a long time, and that was my first love, and I wanted to have a child when I was 15, 16 because I was not I figured I was taking care of my brothers and sisters and changing diapers and loving on them, and my mama get mad, she would take them from me. And tell me they her kids or whatever because she would be mad at me for doing something whatever, and it always felt like everything I love would get taken away. And I thought if I had me a baby, nobody's going to do me like that. I'm not going to play tug of war with my child, and I'm not going to do that. So that never happened. Let me just say, but you happened later. You happened after I was out of the abusive marriage, and I was in a period where I was diagnosed with something on my brain, and it didn't look like I was going to make it. And I had two little kids, and so I wrote a will and ended up getting a miracle. So that I ended up not having anything. They couldn't figure out what happened to what was showing up on the X-rays. I had one X-ray, something showed. Second X-ray, something showed. Third X-ray, something showed, and the specialist went and got somebody else to try to figure it out. And they took a fourth X-ray, and by that time, God had healed me. So during that healing time, during the time in between those X-rays, because I thought I was dying, I decided to call everybody that I can think of that had ever hurt me and harmed me, and forgive them. Okay, because I thought that's how you do it. So I called as many people, and your father was one of those people. And after I forgave him, I realized all the love was still there, hidden under that anger. And then we ended up getting back together again, and there you are.
Wow. I need a moment again because I had no idea. Yeah, even though I grew up with her and I'm hosting her and I'm saying her actual legal name, that's weird, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. I never knew about the brain. I never knew about that. And I'm just going to say mom at this
I
point.
had cancer. They thought I had cancer. And Niecy didn't know. Brianna didn't know. My mama didn't know. Didn't nobody know. Again, this was the time when I got sick, and I told no one. I figured God was going to heal me, so I was not going to make everybody crazy. And evidently, I didn't like secondary gain. People feeling sorry for me, so I kept it. Again, my independence was a weakness. Okay, because I should have asked for help. But and because I had a faith strong enough, like I said, I had three faulty X-rays. I mean, three. I also three faulty X-rays, or three X-rays where they positively saw something, and then the last X-ray with the surgeon, who the X-ray came back clean. So
that's phenomenal. I was like, yeah, that is phenomenal, and but what I think is so cool about your story is that wasn't the first time a miracle happened in your health. Can you walk us through the 14 years where you had a total of 48 diagnoses? You were given a notice by your primary care doctor that you have a backpack full of medicine. There's no longer things that she can do for you, and you are on your own. And then after that, if I'm not mistaken, you left the company that you're currently at because it was you weren't safe enough to do it because you weren't 100% there due to the medications that you're on to treat the things that were currently going on in your body, to you becoming homeless, losing all of your stuff in storage, and now you're at this point where you don't know what to do. I'm actually 13 years old at this time, and can you walk us through how you went from that point? And mind you guys, she also did get her master's degree, going through a lot of other stuff that we're not going to just talk about right now on this, but you guys can follow her and listen to that whenever that comes up. But she also had her master's degree through this and stuff like that, and she worked in therapy type of jobs. So what was the healing like? Because you went from a therapist, counseling, and working in group homes, working in prisons, doing all this amazing stuff in church, doing a children's ministry. Like you were doing this thing, okay? So what happened with your health? Because now I can say it's a miracle, but at the time it was not a miracle.
Okay, what happened to my health is I did not realize that I was not properly taking care of my whole being. Okay, I dealt with abuse. I had therapy. I did all that. I was going to the doctors and I was doing what they were saying. I was at the church and doing what they were saying. Okay, I was doing all these different modalities that was supposed to bring healing to my mind, heart, and body, but I didn't know that I was energy. When I found out that, well, then when I had that last near death experience, I found out that I was pure love, light, energy. Okay. Until that time, I was healing, yes. And I'd already healed. When I had that experience, I'd already been healed of almost all 46 diseases except for one. No, two. It was 2. Mm-hmm. And that was high blood pressure and, no, 3. High blood pressure, anemia, and allergy. Okay. And I had to come through that. I was told by God in order for me to get saved to be alive, I was going in and out of, I was crossing over back and forth, that second period of time. And my dad told me he said, fuck what the doctor said. This is my dad. That's how he talks. He said, fuck the motherfucking doctors. They don't know what the hell they saying. He said, and then I heard a voice say, you shall surely live and not die. And so I woke up from that leaving and coming back. And I said, okay, God, if I'm supposed to live and not die, you got to be my hands, my feet, my mouth, my eyes, my ears, my nose, because I had something wrong with every part of my kidneys, my heart, my veins, everything, because I had all, like you said, it was 46, not 48, 46 different diseases, autoimmune. And any one of them could have took me out. Okay. But for some reason I was still here. And so then I heard God say, well, if you want me to do that, you got to forget everything that you think you know about who I am and let me take you on the healing journey. And before that, I said, God, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired because I couldn't even sleep inside the house. I had to sleep on the patio for 6 months because I couldn't breathe indoors. Okay, mm-hmm. So I watched bugs crawl, and that's a whole nother. I was talked to by animals. Okay, it was funny. I was talked to by animals, but when I had to forget everything that I knew about God, He took me on a journey for Himself, and then I started. I was on a learning journey, and I had to figure out what was wrong with me, and that came first. And it was the biggest thing that was causing all the diseases, all the myriad of things, was celiac disease. Okay, and that's where your body cannot process gluten, and you're not getting nutrition to all these different areas of your body. Hence, the area that is not getting nutrition gets disease. Okay, and because I had gluten was a big part of my diet, because you had to eat all your grains. Because I was pretty tried to eat healthy food, but because I cooked all the time when y'all were little, we had to eat grains and bread and this and that and the other, and then finding out
it was the pyramid, right? that
Yeah,
you
that
used to
we're
have to follow.
trying to follow the pyramid. You need so many servings of this, so many servings of that, and I try to keep y'all on a healthy, balanced diet. Yet I kept getting sick, and then the doctors were blaming me for getting sick, and then I find out because I had you. I couldn't, by this time in my sickness, I couldn't read or write. And I don't understand why I couldn't, when letters were transposed. And when I tried to sign my name, I would forget how to sign my name. So it was like I had to pass that stuff over to somebody else to do for me because and then I became aphasic where I could hardly talk. So, uh, you had to do the research for me and I made you, and I acted like I was back in school. And it was like the scientific method, ruling out this, ruling out that, ruling out this, ruling out that. And I had you make charts of all the people in my family who had all the different diseases, all the people in the family who had all the different drug addiction, all the alcoholics, all the sexual molestation, all the everything. And then I had you do the commonalities between all the relationships, all the eight people that I was going to marry, what all these relationships have in common. And then I had you do research and I had you make PowerPoints. I don't know if you remember all that about gluten and how all the diseases is caused. I had you make a whole PowerPoint for me
I
that I shared with
remember.
my family. Okay.
You know how I
Like I said,
remember? Mine,
uh,
I actually brought that to school with me one day, and I showed it to my biology teacher, Mr. Acott, and he was like, "Oh my God, Charente!" And I was like, "This is the research that we're doing," and he's like, "This is phenomenal." So I do remember it. So I
yeah.
brought it to school.
Yeah, so when I realized that my body had different needs than what they tell you that everybody needs, and that I was an individual because I had individual DNA, I had to figure out what my body could tolerate and what it couldn't. And none of the allergy tests that the doctors was giving was telling them the right stuff because certain allergies you can't tell by a blood test or you can't tell by a needle prick, okay,
Mm-hmm.
or stuff put under your skin like gluten. That's not one you can tell. So it was a matter of finding out what was wrong with me, then getting blood numbers from the doctor, having them give me copies of every blood test they did of me so that I can figure out what foods I needed to eat, what foods I needed to eliminate in order to get the number to change out of the red zone into the green zone. And I did it one by one. Okay. I didn't try to do it all at one time. It was baby steps because this
Mm-hmm.
healing journey has been going on a long time. And then, hey, miraculously, well, I guess about 10, 11 years later, I was given a clean bill of health. That was like 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where I was told, hey, I'll see you next year. I was like, huh? I was like, huh? People say, what do you mean? You have a physical every year. No, I went from going for a physical every year to going every 6 months, to going every 3 months, to going every 2 months, to going every month, to going every motherfucking week, and then being in the hospital in between. So, no, when they say see you next year, that was, I celebrated my ass. I gave myself kudos all over the place. Okay, but yeah, that's how that went down. And now I'm here having understanding that energy is what it's all about, and that's that divine spark that keeps you breathing or gives you that prana, and that's your life force, and that we have an energy body that needs tending to, and that because we're energy at our core, and we have to take care of the body so that the energy can raise, and we have to deal with
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff I was told to stick down in the dirt and forget about it. All that stuff had to be brought up, and people call that your shadow self. Okay, I think it was Carl Jung or somebody like that. I don't remember all the psychologists because this is a year. That's a long time ago for basic psychology, but I think it was Carl Jung or something like that. Who
It
talked
is.
about okay,
It
who
is.
talked about the shadow self and all that kind of stuff. And the shadow self is the fact that when we figure out energy, energy never dies. Energy can't get sick. Energy can transmute, it can change, it can get stifled, it can get blocked, it can get constipated, but it is always here. And everything that's made that you ever see is made of energy. That we can't see the energy moving, but energy is always moving. And when we hold things inside of ourselves, feelings, emotions, hurts, pains, slights, and we don't see it through the eyes of love, that energy gets blocked and trapped until we see it through the eyes of love. And that's the target that we're supposed to be hitting. So we're not sinning against ourselves. Because when we don't hit the target of coming from love with ourselves and others, there's a lot of crap that goes on in between, like the stuff I grew up with. My
Mm-hmm.
mother didn't know about doing no work. She didn't know nothing about any of that kind of stuff. All she knew was what she was told,
I'm back.
But okay.
We are about to wrap up, and I am thankful for Loyce for sharing her story. I'm thankful for Loyce for fighting her fight, because if she didn't fight her fight, I would not be in existence. And I like existing on this earth. Just gonna let people know that. I'm very happy I am here. So I'm very happy she fought to be where she is now. And I will say for Carl Jung, it's ego, persona, shadow. Thank BTS for the fact that I know that. Just gonna throw that out there. And then I just have one more section I want to talk about when it comes to your life, and it's finances. What I remember you telling me when I was younger is your mom kind of taught you how to rob Peter to pay Paul. I personally saw payday loans where you said it was one time, but I thought it was all the time. There was pawn shops, stuff like that. I know that you also had a battle with Social Security in regards to stuff. So can you take us over high level of your financial life and what that looked like as you progressed in the years?
Okay. I'm gonna say this. This is fair. I mean, I think I've ever said this, but when I was 18 years old and went to college, and I tried to get into the dorms, I couldn't get into the dorms because I had bad credit, and I had never had credit. Okay.
How?
Because, like I said, Mama robbed Peter to pay Paul, and if we needed some lights on, she would use our names and social security numbers. So by when I started out with bad credit, so it took me years. By the time I finished college, I had got that credit thing on lock. Where I figured out, okay, I got to clean this up, I got to do that in order to do whatever I want to do. And that was part of what I had to do when I was in college was clean up the bad credit that I had that I didn't make myself. So that's how I started. Now, when the payday loans came into picture, that was a time when I was by myself raising y'all, and I think I was still in school. That means I was still working part time and doing hair and all that kind of stuff. And you guys will come up with an instrument needs to be fixed, okay, because it's broken. A uniform needed to be bought, and the money wasn't there at the time. So the pawn shop didn't come in until later, but I knew that if I get a payday loan, I can go and get you what you need, and you only lacking that, and you'll have yours when the band marched or whatever the situation was, because it was not in the budget. Okay, the budget covered everything else, but if something came up that wasn't in the budget, sometimes a payday loan was necessary. However, getting a payday loan didn't mean you can pay the payday loan off right after you got it. It meant that you had to keep on paying it because the money you just got on the payday loan, you took it away from something else that needed to be paid later because remember, the thing you got the payday loan for was not in the budget. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I had to go and pay over and over and over all that interest in order to get some things off of me. Okay, and it took a minute, and then okay, got them things off of me, and then I stopped working because I was too sick to work. And we were going from doctor to doctor, lost my health insurance, everything. So we had to start paying for the medication. And as you said earlier,
Quick
I had a
question.
backpack. Yes, ma'am.
Cobra. Didn't you get that? Like, I thought that still was a thing because it's a thing nowadays, but it wasn't a
Okay,
thing back then.
Cobra was a thing. Okay, Cobra was a thing, but didn't pay the co-payment of everything. There were co-payments that had to be paid for medications, and some medications weren't formularies, and they were formularies, and so they were not on the thing to be paid for. So some prescriptions I had to go to find the cheapest price to pay for that thing, and other ones were covered by the copayment. And the Cobra, I didn't have money. Remember, if I'm not working, ain't no money.
Mm-hmm.
I got the money from from work for a minute.
And you have three
Until
kids. Three
okay, well,
kids.
and two were in college, and you were in private school at the time when I was
My
pulled off
God.
of work. So I had a lot of balls in the air, as you said.
So
But
many.
eventually you drop one, and it's a cavalcade of balls falling everywhere, all around you, and that's what the hell happened. And I ended up having to put my jewelry, and because I love jewelry, put my jewelry in the pawn shop for medication. All of it didn't go in at the same time. It was over a period of like 2 years where I had to give up a ring or whatever because when it was time to get it out, I couldn't afford to get it out because I gave the money to the people for the medicine. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it was one of those things, and then I was blessed to have the health insurance as long as I did because a friend of mine who I had met online and they're a really nice person told me that God told them to pay my health insurance for a year. So we had it for a whole year, and they were paying $700 a month. So God sent beautiful angels,
Mm-hmm.
earth angels to help me during that time so that even though we were homeless, we were never homeless because we had a car at all times. You know what I mean? We
Car and
had
Walmart.
friends and Walmart, yeah, because there were times we slept at Walmart in the car and Walmart because they stayed open 24 hours and RVs and all that stuff across the country were able to park at Walmart's parking lot and they don't bother them. When they drive. So I heard that, and that's what we did. And that way we had a bathroom to go into and all that other kind of stuff. So I did the best with what I had, no matter what situation I was in. I did the best with what I had. And what I had at that time was a car and money for food. So we never went hungry and we never were completely homeless. And we only had to sleep in our car maybe once or twice during that whole period when I didn't have income. And then the battle with Social Security, I paid in. Started work when I was 13, and I paid in Social Security for many, 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 many moons because up until the time I was pulled off work, I always had some type of job somewhere. Okay, so they wanted to fight me and wanted me to keep going from place to place, telling them all the symptoms, all the stuff, and doctor to doctor and doctor to doctor. And I did for the first time, which was when I was at the sickest. And eventually they gave me the money. Okay, then they started when it was time to renew it. I missed it because my daughter was in the one that was handling the finances and stuff because I told you couldn't read and write and stuff. Was in Japan and I missed a court date, so they took
And
it
that was
away.
Brianna, just to
That
make
was
sure
Brianna.
we have
Yeah,
context. Okay.
yeah, that was Brianna. They took it away, and then as I started fighting for it, I was recognizing that the more I repeated the symptoms, the more I said how sick I was, or had been, because they want to know the worst, they want to know the medium, they want to know the end, they want you to they just want you to stay sick. I think I don't know, and I realized that the more I talked about the symptoms and all the stuff that was going on in my body, the sicker I was getting. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a talk with you, Brianna, and Nisi. I don't know if you remember this. We were in that house you're living in now. And I said, I don't want to fight with them anymore. I don't want to fight against or fight for anything. Because God told me that, I thought about it and what I'm doing right now with my house and stuff, I'm able to make it. I just needed somebody, Brianna, to pay the light, I'm not the insurance and $100 a month, basically. Okay. And then, whatever, she can claim me on her taxes. Basically, that was the
Mm-hmm.
deal. Okay. And the whole thing is that let me be able to afford me the peace so I can go into myself and really begin the healing process. And that was when I understood that the energy was the thing that was still keeping me in illness because, like I said, psychologically, I knew I dealt with all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mentally, I knew it. Financially, I knew I healed both. Everything that I could do, I did, but I hadn't dealt with the energy, and so I learned about energy, and God took me through all different types of different mediums in order to learn different things, from yoga to finding out about crystals and earth minerals, to find out about everything has a 7.83 megahertz to sustain perfect life here, and all kinds of stuff, and touching trees to draw energies, and rock, and just learning about it, and then being, and then over the last year, understanding that we all are in this big energy ball that's 8 meters, 8 meters in a circle all around us, and it's called the Merkaba, and that is when your Merkaba is lit up, and you're vibrant, your energy, because your energy is high, and the higher you raise your vibration, the more effect that this energy ball that you're able to access, and the wisdom, the whatever that's in there, because it holds your whole soul's journey. It's your, what they call your Akash. It's
Mm-hmm.
where all the people that you ever loved, that part stays with you until you're gone, and it still stays in this ball while you're here. That's why I know my daughter's going away, because when I had those 3 near-death experiences, that's where I went, and that's where I was able to see everybody. That's why I know that ain't nobody gone. I just can't physically see them, but their energy is here if I want to tap into that.
Now I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, is that so? We're going to go to closer to current and present. So things have progressed. Pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
Brianna went on a trip. Brianna came back with COVID. Brianna passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and things changed. My
Mm-hmm.
question is: I know you're not homeless. You said you're in your guest room. What happened after that with your finances? Were you able, what were you like, were you able, how were you able to like make it? Because mind you, during that entire time you weren't working, but there's still somehow money coming in, kind of thing. So how did help fill in that gap?
Okay, help filling that gap. Okay. Well, I realized that when I studied the energy and all that stuff, that money is simply energy. And energy can transfer, it can transmute, it can do a whole lot of things, but it has to flow. So I stopped thinking saving for a rainy day, and started living life to its fullest. And as I put the energy out there, the energy came back to me. And then as far as how did I make it, I followed my intuition, and it led me to the house that I'm in, just like it led me to the house that you're in, just like it led me to the house that your sister is in. And I had envisioned myself in this house before I saw this house, so I knew this house when I got here. And I think I told you that before. Um, and the whole thing is, when Brianna got sick, I told you that God said that she would be a blessing to me all the days of her life, because she had set aside money for us. We were able to take that small amount of money that we were given, and because of my financial knowledge and acumen, I'm gonna say like that, my business
You learned a lot.
acumen. Oh shoot, yeah, I've learned a lot over the years, so I've learned how to stretch that little bit of money out to where I live comfortably, and I'm not worried about anything right now. And so, of course, it wasn't that much. However, like I said, I've learned finances. That's all, and I've taught it to you and taught it to your sisters, and you guys tend to be good at it when you want to be. Okay, but yeah. So that's it. And the thing is, following my instincts, following what the spirit leads me to. It's like I told you before. It's like the yellow brick road. The bricks light up when I get to them. And now I feel God is pulling me out of retirement because I like traveling. Okay, and because I like traveling, I had to have more money. And during the process of me being sick and stuff, I started a life coaching business, which is W.I.N.G.S, and the W.I.N.G.S stands for Whole Life Integration for New Growth Services, where I help people on this journey that I went on, and I help them find out where they're stuck, help find out where the chakras need to be cleared, figure out what maybe the foods they need to eat, where because I work with the whole being. I don't work with a piece of you. We'll work on diet, we work on nutrition, we'll work on the energy, we'll work on the psychology because throughout this journey, God took me through all different types of ooh, ancient religions and different treatment modalities where, like where you get the energy medicine and energy frequency tapping, the emotion freedom technique, which is energy frequency tapping.
Mm-hmm.
From yoga, like I said, to understanding about the rocks and the minerals, to, oh my Jesus, it's so much that I learned over this period of time because I had to study the body to figure out what the body needed in order to give the body what it was. Because when I found out I was pure love, light, energy at my core, I understood that meant that energy can't get sick. So whatever I was doing, I needed to change because God said I was healed already. I just have to recognize it, and I had to maintain the healing. So if I'm already healed and maintain the healing means I needed to eat something different or do something different. That's what I did, and I did that the same thing with the finances. If healing of my finances meant I needed to do something different, I did something different. So now that I'm in a good place, I ain't gonna say I don't worry sometimes. Oh yeah, because I'm a human being, but I understand that the only way the worry is going to affect me is if I maintain that thought longer than 17 seconds and let it snowball into some other bullshit. Okay, because every 17 seconds you hold a thought, it finds it's magnetized to another thought on its same level, just like it. So I try to keep my thoughts positive, and when I hear a negative thought come to me, like when I was on the mountain in Paris, one thought says, "You too old to be doing this shit." The other thought says, ease on down the road. So I learned how to pull from my being that which I needed to keep moving, and I've learned how to transpose or transition a negative into a positive. Or I'll say like this: I've learned how to do like the Dung Beetle. I've learned how to look at my shit and take out all the impurities in my shit, and then shine it up and make a nice home.
That's an amazing talent, and I I thank you for all of what you said, all of what you done, and I'm just gonna. I have to give a summary of you, and then we have to let people know how to find you. Okay, so I'm gonna summarize her entire story, y'all, and that is. It's gonna be a feat, so pray for me for a second. I receive the prayers. Thank you. Um, I should call her Dr. Loyce Hampson because she went to her self university and has perfected those areas, and she's still perfecting them. She was a person that went on the opposites of what she learned. She doesn't live by fear, she lives by love. And she went from a place of she can never be seen to she is now coming out of retirement to be seen because of how amazing she has always been. She still loves to play and still has a riot of a time playing all the time. And she really is here for humanity for the fact that she passed away 3 times and then chose still for some reason to come back. And when she did, that's when W.I.N.G.S came to be. So how can people find you? Because I know that your story resonated to a bunch of people and they might want to find you now. So can you let people know how to find you, please?
Okay, I am Loyce Hampson, LOYCE HAMPSON, on Instagram and Facebook. Also, I have W.I.N.G.S, life coaching and counseling on Facebook and Instagram as well. And my website is Neonly, which is neon.ly/wings LLC. That's my web page. And then the other site is wings-llc.square.site. So that's where you can find me.
Thank you so much. Your story really is the title of this talk, which is Labels Don't Define You. We have all learned.
We forgot that part because they labeled me edgically retarded when I was 7 years old. Ah, okay, go figure. Okay,
that
but
makes no sense. Because, like I said, I've given you an honorary doctorate. Okay, I've given you an honorary. I don't have the power to do this, but I'm giving you an honorary doctorate. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I was supposed to be edgically retarded according to the elementary school I went to. But like I said, my mom was a mixed bag of tricks, and home was a mixed bag of tricks, and she motivated me to believe in the power of me, you know, and I'm still on that journey. So I really thank you, Charente, for having me be a part of your wonderful podcast where you uh, illuminate, I don't know what you call us, whatever it is.
Unsung heroes that live among us.
That's what you said. Unsung heroes that live among us. I'm grateful that you found me to be one of your unsung unsung heroes. Look, the words ain't gonna come out of my mouth. But yeah, I appreciate this talk with you, and I guess that's all I have to say. Unless you have any more questions of me.
No other questions. Just to close us out, I will say again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your story. Thank you for defying all the things that you are taught. I thank you for living your life experience. I thank you for being who you are, what you have been through, what you have witnessed, what you have heard, and what you have done. I thank you for all of it. And thank you for bringing me into this life in spite of everything that was going on in the pregnancy. I truly thank you for allowing me to be here. Thank you for allowing my sisters to be here too. So I will say in closing that oh, I might cry, and it is what it is. I'll say in closing that I'm grateful to be your daughter. I'm grateful to have witnessed part of your life, not your entire life, but part of your life. And it has helped me to be the woman that I am. It has helped me to be the other roles and other labels that I am, and also let me know that I am none of those labels. So I thank you for your living anthology. I thank you for your current story, and I'm excited for what is still in store because 3 deaths down and you're back. So it's going to be something grand and something amazing. And I'm excited for whatever that is. Make sure you guys follow her. Thank you guys so much for listening to Speak From Your Heart show. And now we're going to go to the outro.
Thank you. Hey, thank you, Charente, for having me. And I thank you for being a fighter as well. I appreciate your willingness to learn because I have friends who have children who didn't listen to their parents, and sometimes I know why. However, but to have children that actually listen to their mother or listen to the wisdom wherever it comes from. That's what I would say. Listening to the wisdom from wherever it comes from and then growing. I appreciate you because you guys, my kids, have surpassed all of the things that I ever wanted, okay, and who you've become and at the age you've become it. So I am so grateful that you are my child. Okay, I get on here and I listen to you and I get the tears, man. I be like, that's my baby. That's my baby. You're my baby. Yes, that's my baby. And I do that with my sister too. I be like, oh yeah, that's my sister. That's right. That's my. And she was one of my first babies. Okay, I'm gonna say that she was one of my first babies that I took care of. But yeah, it makes me proud to hear the woman, the dynamic woman that you've become, the take no shit, take no prisoners woman that you've become, leading with a heart of love and making sure that you stand for what you believe in and you say what you want. And then you go after it. Knowing that, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to lead into this. What if everything we said, what if everything we thought came to pass? What would this
Oh no,
world look like?
Jesus.
Okay, so we got to realize that whatever, but that's what we do when we think thoughts, we radiate them all around us, okay? And if we radiate thoughts all around us, if they're not of love, then we've missed the mark and we've sinned against ourselves because we are love light beings and we have to come from that love light center at all times. Sometimes it's a little challenging, but then when you realize that you create this by who you are, then it gets to be downright fun. And now, right now, I'm loving it and it's fun. And when I get triggered, I think it's to hear and like, and it says, oh my God, here I go again. I say, here I grow again. And I grow because I get to find, I just found out something else that's darkening my light. So to me, it's like when we come from that love and that center of our hearts, we turn into incredible women like you and incredible women like me. I'm going to give myself kudos because it takes a lot of love to get to where I am right now, because especially starting all my life with all fear. It was all fear, okay? And now it's nothing but love, so it's like, and then you're my child of love. And they said the greatest of all is what? Love, okay? So, and we are love. And as long as we know we are love, and this we talk with love, walk with love, eat with love, be mindful of this. And then and respond with love. Don't just react, respond. And when you do that, you elevate yourself, you shine your light brighter, and you elevate all those around you because everybody is interconnected in this same beautiful love light energy. And we got to see each other in our wholeness. We can't just see each other as is, because as is a manifestation of what's going on the inside of that person. So what you see that you don't particularly care for, then you got a whole pon of that shit, because everybody's whole. They may be struggling, but they're whole. So I thank you for your time and your energy, and for even asking me to come on your show. I'm just like, I was kind of speechless because I thought it was just your podcast, you're doing your thing. But I appreciate being featured as one of your guests on your second podcast. So
thank you, and I will say this because you might not know this. Besides Brianna, my first role model was you. So you have never let me down. So thank you for leading by example and for you being you. Truly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And I think that's Andrea. Thank you, Andrea, for the high five.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you also Lisa K for the claps. Thank you so much, Sunny. Thank you so much. We had a lot of people doing the claps. Okay. Thank you guys for the round of applause, because Loyce definitely deserves it, and because of that, now I have to do the applause, and then we can do outro. And if whenever you want to hop, you can. But I'm gonna finish out.
All right. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye. There you have it, y'all. Loyce Hampson, M.A. M.F.T., founder of W.I.N.G.S, also known from me to her mommy. Thank you really so much for listening in. Am I crying? Yes, I am, and it is what it is, y'all. Your stories move me, okay? All stories move me. So we'll be back here for the live. We'll be back for another episode in a couple of weeks. You'll hear, you'll know, because I'll pop back up. So I will catch you guys at a later time. Outro. Thank you for listening to this episode of Speak From Your Heart Show. Remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast streaming platform. Be sure to give us a follow or DM us on Instagram at Speak From Your Heart Show, your takeaways and thoughts on this episode. That's all for this show. Until next time, see you.